All right, so Japan. You know, we love to talk about skiing and snowboarding, and today we're diving into something that could, I think, really improve your next trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a service called Silk Crane.
Okay. Silk Crane, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they basically handle all the headaches of getting your gear to and from the slopes, so you can just, focus on enjoying Japan.
That sounds pretty amazing. That's always like the worst part of any ski trip is like lugging all that stuff around.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah.
Especially, going to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a ton of info here to go through. We've got testimonials, we've got details from their website, and I want to see if this is really, as good as it sounds.
Yeah, like is this legit or is this too good to be true?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
One of the other reasons why I think this is a good topic to dive into now is because the rising cost of everything.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Flights, gear, lift tickets. It's like everything is more expensive now.
I know. So this might be a way to actually make these trips a little bit more affordable.
Okay, interesting.
So the first thing I want to kind of address is, why would anyone even consider storing their gear in Japan? Like, at first it sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, you're flying across the world. You got layovers. You got to get through airports, train stations.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing all that with skis or a snowboard.
Yeah.
And that's like you're already exhausted and you haven't even hit the slopes yet.
I know. I once had to drag my ski bag through like the Tokyo subway during rush hour. It was brutal.
Oh, no.
Yeah, never again. So that's where Silk Crane comes in. They offer long-term storage for your gear right in Japan.
Oh, okay. So you just ship it once and then it's there whenever you go back.
That's the idea.
So no more like wrestling with oversized luggage at the airport.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds like a dream, especially if you go to Japan like all the time.
Right. What about for people who are just planning like a one-time trip? Does it make sense for them?
That's a good question. And actually, Silk Crane works for both types of travelers. Their storage options are really flexible. You can store your gear for, a few months or even multiple seasons.
Gotcha. So whether you're a Japan regular or a first-timer, they've got you covered.
Yeah. So we actually have a testimonial here from an Australian skier who used Silk Crane. I'm kind of curious, what was their take on it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
They raved about it.
Really?
Yeah, they loved it. So they actually used Silk Crane between trips to Niseko and Hakuba.
Ah, Niseko, legendary powder. Been there, done that. Awesome place.
I know, right?
So what did they like about it?
Well, they said that they loved being able to just get from Niseko and go to Hakuba without having to deal with their equipment.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, like they felt like they were traveling with just a carry-on.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Okay, so I'm starting to see the appeal here, but how does this whole thing actually work? Like, what are the steps involved?
So they have a pretty straightforward 3-step process on their website. So first, you just sign up on the website. You pick your storage plan, and then they send you like a welcome email with all the details, like including the address of their storage facility.
Okay, so where is this storage facility?
It's near Sapporo.
Ah, Sapporo.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That's like the gateway to Hokkaido.
Right, exactly. Smart location. So once you get that email, you can either ship your gear straight to the facility. If you're, not into shipping, they can arrange a pickup for you. So now I'm thinking my gear has arrived at their facility. But what happens to it? Like, I'm kind of nervous to leave my skis, in someone else's hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's expensive stuff. We're not talking about, like, leaving an old sweater at the dry cleaners.
Right. But it seems like Silk Crane takes security pretty seriously.
Okay, good.
So they have climate-controlled storage to protect your gear. They've got 24/7 security from a company called Secom, and they have, like, this very organized labeling system to keep track of everything.
Okay, so no chance of my skis ending up in some random corner gathering dust.
I don't think so. It seems like they really want to make sure your gear is safe and in good condition.
Good. So let's say I'm ready to hit the slopes. How do I get my gear back?
So you just tell Silk Crane where and when you need it, and they deliver it to you.
Really?
Yeah, to your hotel, to a resort, basically anywhere in Japan.
Wow. So it's like having a personal ski valet.
Right.
Okay. But what happens if my plans change? Like, what if I decide to stay in Japan longer or, go to a different resort?
That's a great question, and that's where I think Silk Crane's flexibility is really helpful because they're super accommodating when it comes to changing pickup, drop-off dates, locations. You can even send your gear back to storage after your trip, as long as your membership's active.
Oh, okay. So they're pretty flexible.
Yeah, it seems like they try to make it as smooth and hassle-free as possible.
Yeah, that takes care of like a lot of the what ifs I would have.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about, you hear these horror stories about luggage getting lost, and especially, during peak ski season.
Oh, yeah. Not fun showing up to a resort without your gear.
Not at all.
Okay. So it seems like they've thought of everything to like make this as convenient as possible.
Yeah, and they also address a lot of potential concerns in their FAQ section.
Oh, perfect. Let's dive into that. What about safety and insurance? That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
That's something I was wondering about too, because, it is expensive gear. So, it's important to know, like, it is protected.
Right.
Yeah. So it looks like they really do seem to understand that they go into a lot of detail about all their security measures, which we talked about earlier. But they also offer, additional insurance if you've got like high value items.
Okay. That's good to know because, sometimes you have vintage skis or something that's irreplaceable. So that's great that they have that.
Yeah. And speaking of, peace of mind, another question that they address is what happens if like, your travel plans change?
Oh, yeah. Because, things happen. Flights get delayed, blizzards. You decide to stay longer,
Exactly. Life happens.
Right.
So, but as we talked about earlier, Silk Rain's all about flexibility. They let you adjust your, pick up and drop off dates and locations.
Oh, okay.
They even say, let us know as soon as possible if anything changes with your itinerary so that way we're prepared.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like they're really committed to making this a smooth, a stress-free experience.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Those horror stories you hear about people's luggage getting lost?
Yeah.
And especially, during ski season.
Oh, yeah, I have been there.
Right.
It is not fun.
Not fun at all.
Showing up to a resort without your gear.
Yeah, but with this, at least you know that your stuff is waiting for you.
Exactly right. It's like ready to go.
Yeah, so it seems like they've really, thought of all the pain points of traveling with ski gear. And, they've come up with the solution.
Yeah, I'm curious about the storage duration. Like, what if I don't know how long I need to store my gear for?
Yeah. So it seems like they have options for that too.
Okay.
They've got plans that range from a few months to even multiple seasons. So whether you're, like a Japan ski bum or you're just going one time, they can accommodate that.
Okay, so it's super adaptable.
Yeah. And I was also thinking, what about other winter gear?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just skis and snowboards. I'm thinking boots,
Yeah.
outerwear, helmets, all that bulky stuff that takes up so much room.
Yeah, for sure. And you're in luck. They can handle all of that.
Really?
Yeah, it's not just limited to skis and snowboards.
Yeah.
They can store all your winter essentials.
So I could basically show up in Japan with just like a backpack.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing.
They make it possible to travel light and still have everything you need for like, an epic ski trip.
So this all sounds really amazing, but the listener's probably thinking, okay, how much does this cost?
Right.
Is this just for like, super rich people?
Well, actually, they really emphasize that it is affordable.
Oh, okay.
And, and you're saving on the cost of transporting your gear back and forth every year.
That's true. Yeah. So it might actually be cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
But I imagine the pricing probably varies depending on, how much gear you're storing and for how long.
Yeah, their website mentions that the cost is calculated based on storage duration,
Okay.
item size, and then any additional services you choose. Like, if you want your skis tuned, they say, request a personalized quote
Oh, that's smart.
at the website. Yeah,
Yeah, because then you can see like what it would actually cost.
exactly. Transparency is key, especially when you're talking about, finances.
Right.
And it seems like they're all about, providing like a personalized experience.
Yeah, and they seem to be trying to make this accessible to as many people as possible.
Definitely. And now that we've kind of covered all the, the nitty gritty details, I'm curious to get your take. Like,
Okay.
what stands out to you the most about Silk Rain?
I think, honestly, it's the freedom and the flexibility it offers.
Go.
Like, I can just imagine, arriving in Japan, getting off the plane, and not having to worry about, that dreaded ski bag.
Right.
It seems like it would change the whole travel experience.
I agree. I mean, it's like they've removed like a major obstacle,
Yeah.
from the equation. And then you can just focus on, enjoying your time on the slopes and, exploring Japan.
Right. It's not just about the practicality, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's like a psychological element to this, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about like the mental energy that you save by not having to stress about your gear.
I know.
It frees you up to like, be more present, be more spontaneous.
Yeah, and like you could be sitting in a cafe in Niseko looking out at the mountains and think, oh, I want to go to Hakuba tomorrow.
Yeah, and you can just do it.
And you can just do it.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Because your gear's all taken care of.
So it really opens up a lot of possibilities.
It does. And it's funny. It's like they're not just storing your gear, they're storing your worries.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another point. I think Silk Crane isn't just for, hardcore skiers and snowboarders.
Oh, that's true.
Think about families traveling with kids.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Imagine not having to deal with like multiple sets of skis and boots and snowboards.
Through the airport. I can't even imagine.
Right.
It'd be a nightmare.
So it could transform like a potentially stressful family vacation into, something fun.
Yeah.
And what about older skiers and snowboarders who might have a harder time, lugging heavy equipment around?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So Silk Crane could actually make skiing and snowboarding more accessible to people who might otherwise not be able to, to travel with their gear.
Yeah, it's really about inclusivity then, and
Yeah.
making these experiences, available to everyone.
Absolutely. And speaking of, inclusivity and different types of travelers, they have some great testimonials on their website.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have Amanda Kim. She raves about how Silk Crane made her Japan trips so much easier, especially because she was traveling with multiple suitcases.
Oh, yeah. Amanda, I remember she was saying something about how she could actually enjoy, shopping.
Yeah.
Without having to worry about her luggage.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Right. And then we have Joe, who loves the long-term storage.
Yeah,
He doesn't have to haul his equipment back and forth every year.
that's right. Yeah, it's really about that freedom and spontaneity. Like, you can just go whenever you want.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I think this reflects like a broader trend in travel. This whole shift away from just visiting destinations to having more immersive experiential trips.
Okay.
People are craving convenience,
Yeah.
personalization, and a deeper connection with the places they visit.
And Silk Crane kind of, removes that barrier to entry in a way.
Exactly. It takes away the friction of having to travel with all that bulky gear. So it lets you focus on the experiences that really matter.
Yeah, and it makes you think, what other parts of travel could be simplified
Right.
to make the experience better?
Like maybe it's luggage storage or, apps that connect travelers with, local guides or, even hotels that cater specifically to skiers and snowboarders.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
The key takeaway is that travel should be about, liberation, not limitation.
I love that.
Right.
It's about embracing the unknown, pushing your boundaries, and coming home feeling like, refreshed and inspired.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit jealous of our Australian skier friend.
Right.
Who's already living the dream. Speaking of that Australian skier,
Yeah.
their testimonial mentioned something else that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, well, why's that?
They were talking about how using Silk Crane actually changed the way they thought about planning their Japan ski trips.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, before Silk Crane, they said they always felt kind of limited to staying in one resort.
Right.
Usually the one that was closest to the airport,
Makes sense.
Because they didn't want to have to schlep all their gear around to different places.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common thing. A lot of people just want to keep it simple,
Right.
especially if they're, short on time.
But once they started using Silk Crane, they said they felt like they could, explore different regions
Oh, wow.
and try different slopes.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it just ties in with what we were talking about earlier about, experiential travel.
Right.
People want to, immerse themselves in the culture and see new things.
Yes.
And not just, do the typical touristy things.
And Silk Crane kind of allows you to do that,
Right.
especially in Japan where the train system is so good and, there's so many amazing places to go.
So it's really not just about convenience. It's about, broadening your horizons,
Definitely.
making the most of your trip.
It makes me wonder, if this idea of, hassle-free travel could be applied to other things in our lives.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, think about all the stuff we own that kind of weighs us down, both literally and figuratively. Like, that closet full of clothes you never wear,
Oh my gosh.
or the garage, overflowing with stuff.
Skis from 1980
Exactly right.
that you're never going to use again.
What if we could, simplify our possessions and just free ourselves from all that?
Yeah, it's about decluttering your life
Yeah.
so that you can have more space for experiences.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily mean getting rid of everything. Maybe it's about finding creative storage solutions or, embracing a more minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah, just being more intentional about what you have and what you need.
Exactly. And just like Silk Crane lets you, travel light and, focus on the things that really matter, maybe we can apply that same mindset to other parts of our lives.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So I think, as we wrap up our deep dive into Silk Crane, I really want the listeners to think about how this idea of hassle-free travel, could be applied to other areas of their lives as well.
Could it inspire you to simplify your life, declutter your surroundings, embrace new experiences with more, freedom and intention?
It's a really interesting thought.
It is.
So we've come to the end of our deep dive.
Right.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe, learned a few things that you can apply to your own life.
On and off the slopes.
Exactly.
Till next time, happy travels and happy exploring.
And remember, the world is full of amazing experiences just waiting to be discovered.
Right.
True. So pack your bags, embrace the adventure, and never stop seeking out, those moments that make life extraordinary.